my fellow freaky followers and thrill enthusiasts, and welcome back to Wunu, your weekly Universal news and updates. If you don't already know, I make weekly edits of all of the changes I can find at Universal Orlando, and this week marking spooky season beginning, I have more updates than ever. This week I'll be covering all of the changes from September 21st to the 27th, and maybe a little from the 28th that was just too exciting to leave out. So what are we waiting for? Let's get into some updates with our first topic. So obviously, with it being the end of September and spooky season is just beginning, I have to start with Halloween Hornets. And this week does not disappoint on the updates. Universal announced that all of the Halloween festivities that took place in last week's testing event would not only be happening again this weekend, but also be happening on weekdays and weekends from October 3rd to November 1st. For those who don't already know, these festivities include 2 haunted houses in the Studios Park, a lift on the costume van that's usually in the parks, trick-or-treating in Islands of Adventure, and Cafe La Bamba being turned into a skeleton bar, plus food options such as the Franken fried chicken and twisted taters being served from the HHN food trucks. However, this isn't the only thing that HHN gave us directly this week. They also gave us some sneak peek photos inside of the Revenge of the Tooth Fairy house. These really help us see the plexiglass scares better, along with give us quite a good glance inside the house, and also get to see some of the Tooth Fairy's costume designs. But after giving us the sneak peeks, once the event actually started, Universal actually lifted the recording ban in this house. This gave us POVs and the ability to see the entirety of the house. And after seeing the POVs, I personally think they did a great job of trying to keep it as scary as possible whilst being safe. If you want to judge that for yourself, however, I'll leave a link to the POV in the description. Disappointingly, not much I know of changed for the Bride of Frankenstein Lives house, as the recording ban still stands there. Hopefully we'll get to see it go away soon. All of my next fearful updates have to do with lines in one way or another. The first of these is the testing event crowds. As expected, the HHN house's standby lines filled to capacity almost instantly after opening, and the entire virtual line was filled not long after. Of course, these would refill later in the day, but they would basically be instantly taken the entire weekend the event was here. My second line update is that the queues for both of the houses added indoor switchback sections to their queues. I guess the lines were just so long they thought they needed these, and after this weekend, I can now see why. Finally, for my line updates is Express Pass is now usable to get into the houses. This was not previously the case, but now an Express Pass line has been added where guests with Express can skip the line and get into the house. Finally, for HHN this week is with all of the costume bans removed, Universal added some signs outside the parks reminding people that there are still restrictions on costumes and that they need to follow them. So that's all the updates I have that fall directly under HHN and not some other topic, and this week was quite exciting for HHN, but I have some even more exciting news when we look at our next topic. All of this week's construction. So I'm not going to stall on this one, because this week I've got some huge updates regarding the VelociCoaster. So early this week we got a somewhat official announcement for the ride. Universal put in the end of a paragraph about the Jurassic Park Island on their website something that mentioned the Jurassic World VelociCoaster, and said that during the ride, guests would feel the rush of the hunt as they run through the jungle alongside raptors. This semi-announcement also told us that the VelociCoaster was set to open summer of 2021. But all of this puzzled the theme park community, as we usually have something big done when the theme park announces a ride like this. Turns out, we were right. 2 days after this was posted to the website, the paragraph was removed, and the next day, Universal released an official announcement trailer for the VelociCoaster. This thing gives us loads of details that we were wanting so bad, it is insane. Not only does it have some of the parts of an official virtual POV that shows us the first launch tunnels and the first few inversions, but it also shows us the cart design that the theme park community has been trying to leak since basically the carts arrived on the site of the VelociCoaster. This announcement video also shows us the that the name will officially be the Veloci Coaster. And from the statement we got earlier in the week, we also know this is going to be Jurassic World themed. But it doesn't stop there. Universal also showed us this super cool GIF of the cart going around the track. And we got some of the first official concept art for the ride. The website also updated to now list some of the coaster specs that include 2 launches, the faster of which goes 0 to 70 miles per hour in 2.5 seconds, a one-of-a-kind 360 barrel roll over the islands of Adventure Lagoon, a 155-foot-tall top hat that plummets down at an 80-degree drop, a 100-foot-long inverted stall, and 12 seconds of air times over the entire ride experience. Needless to say, this thing is going to be an amazing experience, and hearing all of this only makes me more excited for the ride itself. But speaking of the ride itself, let's go check on this in the actual world to see what's happening. Well, this week, poll testing that started last week has continued, and the cars actually got all the way up the top hat. Testing like this will most likely continue for a while, as everything needs to be made sure it's perfect before the ride goes into operation. But I guess the now empty maintenance barn needed a car because another car could be seen being rolled onto the site. I'm not sure if they plan to use it for something. We'll just have to wait to find out. As for actual construction on the site this week, a series of metal arches coming out of the back of the station were placed, most likely to be used to cover the queue in the ride. The main question for these is, are they going to be support poles for an outside covered queue, or are they support beams for a building? Well, we have no idea right now. You'll have to come back later next week to find out. Finally, for the VelociCoaster, we have some Velociraptor eggs that were placed on the rockwork we saw revealed last week. At least we can assume that these are raptor eggs, as this is literally the VelociCoaster. In other news for construction this week, we can move over to the Forbidden Journey locker expansion. The entire wall has been covered in scrim this week, meaning they are probably doing some rock work. This is kind of following the trend of we'll have to wait to find out. Finally, for my building updates this week, we can find some small construction walls that were placed outside of Honk Honker's cotton candy shop at Seuss Landing. These are probably just for some maintenance, but they are still construction walls, so that's all the construction updates I have. But I don't think anyone will be complaining about our next topic. All the delicious food. So how about I make us both hungry and talk about all the new food offerings at Universal? Well, to start us off, we can go to the HHN food trucks. If we go to the food truck that serves Franken-fried funnel brains, we can see this truck's new food offering. Replacing the electric fried skin and guts is cheese curd brains. These look so good, and I'm automatically a sucker for anything with cheese, so boy am I disappointed I can't actually try these. Going to the other food truck, we can see our next update, which is 3 new topping options have appeared for Twisted Taters. These include sour cream and chives, garlic parmesan, and salt and vinegar. Staying on the path of new food options, we can actually go to Mythos, where their appetizer menu has now been updated to have savory lamb meatballs. By the way, if you ever go to the parks, I would recommend eating at Mythos. It's actually pretty good food. This week, restaurants have made some changes to accommodate the crowds. One of these being that the Hop on Pop ice cream shop got to reopen to help serve treats. And another one of these being that restaurants that have outdoor seating near them put barricades around the seating so that the restaurants could use it as seating for guests that wanted to eat there. Also, due to the weekend crowds, some food stands have appeared around the parks. They can be found in the entrance area in the Studios Park, along within Diagon Alley. The snack stands in Marvel Superhero Island also reopened to help with hungry crowds. Are you brave? Did you brave through this section of the video without getting a snack? I know I didn't while writing it. But let's move away from the temptation of food and look at some non-edible updates in our next topic. All of this week's general news. Now, I only have 2 news updates this week, but one of them is pretty major. Universal extended their park hours on Saturdays to 9 p.m. all through the month of October. This probably has to do with the HHN houses being open, so more guests can get through in a day as the parks are opened later. The second news flash I have is that another signing event took place in the Tribute Store. On Tuesday, September the 29th, from 1 to 4 p.m., guests could have their purchases signed by Brian Biergard, Michael Alio, and TJ Manero. So that's all I have for this week's news, but another type of news happens at Universal, and that's what I cover in my next topic. Universal Orlando Annual Passholder News. So just like general news, I only have 2 updates for UOAP news. The first of these 2 is some good news for all pass holders. Passholder Appreciation Days, which were meant to end at the end of September, have been extended to October 30th, so we get to enjoy our limited time meals and separate security entrances for another month. The other news I have is some not so good news for Premier Pass holders. The Express Pass that is included in the pass that was moved back to a 2 p.m. activation for Pass Holder Appreciation Months sadly did not make the cut of things that would stay with the Appreciation Days extension, and will be moving back to starting at 4 p.m. So sorry to all the fancy pass holders out there, but I guess it's better you than me? Nah, I'd never wish badly on my viewers. But anyways, on with the video. And the best way to do that is probably by going to our next topic. All the new merch! And like always, what better place to start than the Tribute Store? This week, only one new thing actually came to the Tribute Store. These would be these super cute and cool Beetlejuice and Classic Monsters themed lounge fly bags. Wow, does it feel weird not having like 50 million new pieces of HHN merchandise? I'm not complaining about the amount we get and all. I love the stuff. I'm just not used to having that much in the updates. Well, since the Tribute Store is done, I guess we can look at Universal's mask selection. 2 new additions were made this week. The first is a Frankenstein Retro Marquee mask, which I personally love the look of. And the second mask is an Every Flavor Beam mask from the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. This mask could give the Poppy mask a run for its money with how bright it is. Sheesh. Speaking of brightness, a kiosk is showing some bright and cheery Christmas spirit this week, as outside of Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket, you can find some Christmas merchandise being sold. This building also put up some festive garland to help advertise its new selections. So that's all the major updates I found at Universal this week, but that doesn't mean I don't also find small things too. So what small updates did I find at Universal this week? Well, this week we can go through the Studios Park for all of our updates. Going over by Central Park Crepes, we can see that the small stage that was fancied up last week. It was used this week for a Dora the Explorer dance and sing-along. Following her vibe, we can dance and sing all the way over to Springfield, where the currently closed Kang and Kodo's Twirl and Hurl has rotated and now faces towards the queue of the ride when before it was facing Springfield. And finally, for the small updates is that all cast members were handed signs that say, "We are all in this together," that are to remind people to wear their masks. Please wear your mask, people. It's how we stay safe. So that's everything I could find in Universal Orlando this week. This has been a week of amazing announcements and mostly good news. I'm not gonna lie, in the past few weeks have been pretty amazing at Universal. Anyways, if you like my content, please make sure to leave a like and or subscribe. And now that I've begged for likes, I think my job here is done. So this is Wunu, signing off.